The day my grandmother's will was read, I learned that my entire life had been built on lies. I sat in the law office's conference room, surrounded by dark wood panels and the lingering scent of leather-bound books, completely unprepared for how my world would shatter. I'm Tori, and until that morning I thought I knew exactly who I was, the only daughter of Valeria, the perfect mother who'd raised me single-handedly after my father abandoned us. How wrong I was. Before we proceed with the reading, Herbert, our family lawyer, cleared his throat. There's someone else who needs to be present. He pressed the intercom. Send her in, please. The door opened, and I felt the air leave my lungs. It was like looking in a mirror, but one that showed a slightly different version of myself. Same height, same heart-shaped face, same green eyes. But where my hair fell in careful waves, hers was pulled back in a messy bun. While I wore a conservative black dress, she had on ripped jeans and a leather jacket. What is this? My mother's voice cut through the silence, sharp and brittle. The woman, my doppelganger, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hi, Mom. Long time no see. Mom's face went white. Actually white, like in books where they say someone turned pale. I'd always thought that was an exaggeration until I saw it happen right in front of me. I'm Jasmine, the woman said, turning to me, and I'm your twin sister. I laughed. I couldn't help it. This is a joke, right? Mom? But my mother wasn't laughing. She wasn't even looking at me. Her hands were shaking as she gripped her designer purse. Herbert, Mom said, this is inappropriate. We should reschedule. No more rescheduling, Jasmine interrupted. She reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph, sliding it across the polished table toward me. Look familiar. The photo was old, its edges worn. Two identical baby girls in matching pink onesies, lying on a hospital blanket. The date stamp in the corner matched my birth date. That's impossible, I whispered, but even as I said it, I knew it wasn't. The truth was right there in my mother's face, in her silence, in the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. Your grandmother Pearl knew about me, Jasmine said. She's the one who helped me find you, and she made sure I'd be here today. Herbert cleared his throat again. Yes, well, that brings us to the matter at hand. Pearl's last will and testament specifically names both Tori and Jasmine Barnes as her beneficiaries. Both? My mother's voice cracked. But that's not... She can't... Half of everything goes to each sister, Herbert continued, as if my mother hadn't spoken. The house in Martha's Vineyard, the investment portfolio, the art collection, all to be divided equally between them. I couldn't focus on the details of the inheritance. My mind was stuck on one thing. I had a sister. A twin sister. And my mother had kept her from me my entire life. Why? I turned to Mom, my voice barely above a whisper. How could you? Tori, sweetie, you don't understand. You're right, I don't understand. The words burst out of me. 28 years, Mom. 28 years of lies. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, watching our mother with cold eyes. Should we tell her about Dad, too? About how he didn't actually abandon us? Mom stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. That's enough. No, I said, standing too. It's not nearly enough. I want to know everything, every single lie you've told me. I did what I had to do, Mom said, gathering her things. Everything I did was to protect you. Protect me? From what? From knowing I had a sister? From knowing my father? But she was already heading for the door, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. At the threshold, she paused. Tori, please, come home with me. We can talk about this privately. I looked at Jasmine, at this stranger who wore my face but carried herself with a confidence I envied. She raised an eyebrow, a silent challenge. No, I said to my mother. I think I'll stay here and get to know my sister. The door closed behind Mom with a soft click that felt like a gunshot. Herbert busied himself with papers, pretending not to notice the family drama unfolding in his office. Jasmine pulled out her phone and pulled up another photo. Want to see what Dad looks like now? I sat down, my legs shaky. Yes, I said. Show me everything. The perfect life I thought I had was crumbling around me, but somehow, Sitting there with my newfound sister, it felt like maybe something better was about to begin. I spent 3 hours with Jasmine at a coffee shop near Herbert's office, looking through photos and piecing together the life I should have known about. When I finally got home that evening, Mom was waiting in the living room, perched on the edge of the sofa, like she was ready to spring into action. "We need to talk about this rationally," she said before I could even close the door. "Rationally?" I dropped my bag on the floor. "Like how you rationally decided to separate twins at birth?" "It wasn't like that." Mom stood up, smoothing her skirt. "Your father and I were going through a difficult time. We couldn't handle 2 babies. So you just gave one away." The words tasted bitter in my mouth. "We made an arrangement. Your Aunt Rachel took Jasmine. She couldn't have children of her own." "My aunt?" I cut her off. "And the aunt you told me died when I was a baby." Mum's face twitched. "Rachel moved to California. It was better this way. A clean break." "Better for who?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo Jasmine had shared. "Dad's been living in Boston this whole time. 20 minutes away. You told me he abandoned us and moved to Europe." "Tori, please." "No." I held up my hand. "Every word out of your mouth has been a lie for 28 years. Why should I believe anything you say now?" The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Mom's eyes widened when she saw who it was through the peephole. "Don't," she warned, but I was already opening the door. Jasmine stood there with a tall, distinguished-looking man with grey at his temples. Even without introduction, I knew who he was. I had his eyes. "Dad?" He smiled, and it was warm and sad at the same time. "Hello, Tori." "You can't be here," Mom said, trying to close the door. "You signed an agreement. An agreement you forced on me with false accusations." Dad's voice was firm as he held the door open. "The girls know now. It's over, Valeria." I stepped back, letting them both in. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Tell her," Jasmine said to Mom. "Tell her why you really split us up." Mom's hands were shaking again. "I was protecting our family." "You were protecting your inheritance," Dad cut in. "Your mother threatened to cut you off if you didn't get rid of me, but she loved the girls, both of them. You couldn't bear the thought of splitting the money 3 ways instead of 2. "That's not true," Mum's voice rose. "Pearl was trying to control me, trying to force me to stay in a marriage that wasn't working." "The marriage was fine until you decided money was more important," Dad said quietly. "You fabricated those abuse allegations to force me out. Your mother might have bought it, but Pearl saw right through you." I felt sick. "Abuse allegations?" "False ones," Jasmine added. "Aunt Rachel kept all the documentation. That's how I found Dad after she passed away last year." "Last year?" I turned to Mom. "So, when you told me last Christmas that you'd heard from Rachel and she was doing well in Paris." Mom sank onto the sofa, her carefully maintained facade cracking. "I did what I had to do. We needed the money, Tori. You had the best of everything: private schools, dance lessons, summer camps. All paid for by keeping me from my sister and father?" I couldn't keep the disgust from my voice. "By destroying Dad's reputation?" "The charges were dropped," she said weakly. "After the damage was done," Dad replied. "After you'd convinced Pearl to write that check. After you'd sent Rachel and Jasmine away with enough hush money to start over." "But Grandma Pearl figured it out eventually," Jasmine added. "That's why she changed her will last month. She wanted to make things right." I looked at my mother, this stranger who'd raised me on a foundation of lies, and felt nothing but pity. "You must have been so scared when you got the notice about the will reading." "I tried to stop it," she admitted. "I begged Herbert to delay it, to lose the paperwork, anything. But he refused." "Because Pearl made him promise," Dad said. "She knew you'd try to prevent this day from coming." I walked to the door and opened it. "I think you should leave, Mom. I need time to process all of this." "But where will I go?" "Maybe you can buy yourself a hotel room with all that money you traded your family for," Jasmine said coldly. Mom gathered her purse, her movements mechanical. At the door, she turned back. "Everything I did was for you, Tori. You have to believe that." I looked at my sister, my father, then back to my mother. No, it wasn't. It was for you. And now you have to live with the consequences. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I could finally breathe freely. My real family was here, and it was time to learn the whole truth. The next few days passed in a blur of revelations. Jasmine moved into my spare bedroom, and we spent every moment we could trying to make up for lost time. It was surreal how quickly we fell into a natural rhythm, finishing each other's sentences and sharing the same inexplicable cravings at midnight. You seriously hate cilantro too? Jasmine laughed one evening as we sorted through old family photos. Dad says it tastes like soap to him as well. Must be genetic, I said, then paused at a photo of Mom holding two babies. It's weird seeing these now, knowing the whole story. Jasmine leaned over. Look at how she's holding us. She's already turning me away from the camera. The doorbell rang and my best friend Jordan burst in without waiting for an answer. She stopped short at the sight of us sitting cross-legged on the floor. Holy shit, she breathed. When you texted me about having a twin, I thought you were drunk. Jordan, meet Jasmine, I said. Jasmine, this is my best friend who's about to help us with something important. Jordan dropped her bag and sat down with us. What are we doing? Breaking into Mum's home office, I said casually, enjoying the way Jordan's eyes widened. She's at her weekly spa appointment, Jasmine added. We have 2 hours. You're serious? Jordan looked between us. This isn't like borrowing her designer bags in high school, Tori. This is actual breaking and entering. I held up a key. Not if we have this. Found it in Grandma Pearl's old jewelry box yesterday, and, technically, half that house belongs to us now anyway. 20 minutes later, we were standing in Mom's pristine home office. The room smelled of her expensive perfume and old paper. Check everything, Jasmine instructed. Pearl's letter mentioned something about a red leather folder. We started searching methodically. Drawers, filing cabinets, bookshelves. Jordan kept watch by the window while humming the Mission Impossible theme under her breath. Found something, I called out, pulling a stack of papers from behind a loose panel in the bottom drawer. Look at these bank statements. Monthly payments to Aunt Rachel for years. Way more than what Mom claimed was adoption support. Jasmine whistled at the numbers. That's hush money if I ever saw it. Guys, Jordan hissed. Car pulling up. We froze. Mom wasn't supposed to be back for another hour. The window, Jasmine whispered, already moving. We can reach the pergola. I shoved the papers into my bag and we scrambled out onto the decorative pergola that Mom had insisted on installing last summer. We'd barely made it to the ground when we heard the front door open. Run! Jordan whispered, screamed, and we bolted through the backyard, trying not to laugh despite the tension. Back at my apartment, we spread the documents across my dining table. Look at this, I said, pointing to a letter. It's from Herbert to Mom, dated right after the fake abuse allegations. He was in on it. Of course he was, Jasmine said bitterly. Why else would a respected lawyer help separate twins and fabricate domestic violence charges? Wait, Jordan interrupted, holding up another paper. This is a copy of the original will. Pearl left everything to both of you girls from the start. Your mum had Herbert change it years ago. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's straight-up fraud. And this, Jasmine pulled out another document, is a letter from Pearl to Mom, dated just before she died. She knew everything. She was gathering evidence. I read the letter aloud. Valeria, I know what you did. The truth about the girls, about Caden, about the will, all of it. I've made arrangements to ensure justice is served even after I'm gone. You have one chance to make this right yourself. She never did, though, Jasmine said quietly. Make it right. No, I agreed. She just kept lying until she couldn't anymore. Jordan was scrolling through her phone. Herbert's firm has a reputation for handling wealthy families' delicate matters. Looks like there might be other cases like yours. We need to talk to Miles, Jasmine said suddenly. Who's Miles? Jordan and I asked simultaneously. The family historian Aunt Rachel used to find Dad. He knows all the old secrets, all the connections. If anyone can help us understand how deep this goes, it's him. I looked at the scattered evidence of my mother's betrayal and felt a surge of determination. Make the call. You're really going to pursue this? Jordan asked softly. It could get ugly. It's already ugly, I said, picking up Pearl's letter again. But Grandma wanted the truth to come out, and we owe it to her to finish what she started. Jasmine was already dialing. Hey, Miles. It's Jasmine. We found something you need to see. How fast can you get to Boston? The web of lies was starting to unravel, and I couldn't wait to pull the next thread. Miles arrived the next morning, looking nothing like the stuffy historian I'd imagined. He was wearing jeans and a faded Rolling Stones t-shirt, carrying a laptop bag covered in travel stickers. The dynamic duo, he said, grinning as he looked between Jasmine and me. You know, in 15 years of genealogy work, I've never seen a case quite like yours. We gathered around my dining table, now covered with even more documents. Miles pulled out his laptop and started typing. Your grandmother contacted me 6 months ago, he explained. She was desperate to find evidence of what really happened. She knew Valeria had manipulated the situation, but proving it was another matter. What made her suspicious? I asked. The money trail. Miles turned his laptop around. See these transfers? Every month, large sums moving through shell companies, eventually ending up with Rachel. But here's where it gets interesting. There were identical amounts going to Herbert's private account. Jasmine leaned forward. He was getting paid off too. Better. Miles clicked to another screen. Herbert was more than just your family lawyer. He was your mother's former fiancé. What? I nearly knocked over my coffee. Before Dad? Way before. Back in college. Pearl broke them up when she discovered Herbert had been helping Valeria forge documents to access her trust fund early. So when Mom needed someone to help her get rid of Dad, Jasmine started. She went back to her old partner in crime, Miles finished. Herbert had just started his own firm. He needed wealthy clients. Your mother needed someone who knew how to bend the law. But why did Grandma Pearl trust Herbert with her will if she knew all this? I asked. Miles smiled grimly. She didn't. The Herbert handling Pearl's will isn't the same Herbert who helped your mother 28 years ago. Check out his full name. He pulled up a document, and there it was. Herbert Thornton, Jr. The son, Jasmine whispered. We've been dealing with his son? Who had no idea what his father did, Miles confirmed. Pearl knew that. She specifically chose Junior's firm because she knew it would lead us to his father's records when the time came. That's why he didn't help Mom stop the will reading, I realized. He didn't know he was supposed to. A knock at the door made us all jump. Dad stood there holding a cardboard box. Found these in my storage unit, he said, setting the box down. All my old case files from when I tried to fight for custody. Miles dove into the box like a kid at Christmas. This is perfect. Court records, witness statements, wait. He pulled out a yellowed envelope. This is postmarked 2 weeks before the abuse allegations. It's from Pearl to Rachel. We all leaned in as he read. Rachel, I fear Valeria is planning something terrible. She's been meeting with Herbert, talking about Caden being dangerous. Keep these photos safe. They'll prove the truth someday. Dad's hands shook as he reached for the envelope. Inside were photos of our entire family, Mom, Dad, baby Jasmine and me, all looking happy, normal, loving. Direct evidence against Mom's claims of an abusive household. She knew, Dad said quietly. Pearl knew what was coming, but couldn't stop it. Because Mom threatened to take us both away where no one would find us if Pearl interfered, Jasmine added. Rachel told me that part. Miles was already scanning the photos. These are dated, location-stamped everything. Combined with the financial records and Herbert Sr.'s involvement, this is enough to prove conspiracy and fraud. And destroy Mom's reputation completely, I said, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. There's more, Miles said, typing rapidly. Pearl didn't just leave you the house and investments. She left you controlling interest in the family company. Your mother's been running it as CEO, but legally, it's ours now, Jasmine finished. All of it. Dad put a hand on each of our shoulders. You don't have to do this, girls. We could just move forward, try to heal. No, I cut him off. Mom didn't just hurt us. She hurt you, Aunt Rachel, Grandma Pearl. She hurt everyone who ever loved her, and she's never faced any consequences. Pearl wanted the truth to come out, Miles added. That's why she spent her last months gathering all this evidence. She wanted justice, not just reconciliation. Jasmine picked up one of the photos, Mom holding us both, smiling at the camera, looking young and happy. She chose money over this, over us. She needs to understand what that choice really cost. I know someone at the Boston Globe, Miles offered. Once this story breaks, I looked at my sister, seeing my own determination reflected in her eyes. Do it, we said together. Miles pulled out his phone, and I felt the weight of what we were about to do settle over the room. Mom's carefully constructed world of lies was about to come crashing down, and for the first time, I felt no guilt about being the one to push it. The Boston Globe article dropped like a bomb on a quiet Sunday morning. Family empire built on lies. Twin sisters reunited after decades of deception, screamed the headline. My phone started ringing before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. Have you seen it? Jasmine's voice was tight with tension. Just reading it now, I said, scrolling through the detailed exposé. The journalist had done their job thoroughly, laying out the whole sordid story, the false abuse allegations, the separated twins, the manipulated inheritance, everything. Mum's lawyer just called, Jasmine continued. She's demanding a meeting. Of course she is. I took a deep breath. Let's give her what she wants. 2 hours later, we sat in Herbert Jr.'s office. Mom burst in looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usual perfect appearance was cracking around the edges. Smudged mascara, wrinkled blouse, hair falling out of its careful style. How dare you? She hissed. Do you have any idea what you've done? Actually, we do, Jasmine replied coolly. The company's stock dropped 12% this morning. 3 board members have already resigned. The charity foundation is distancing itself. Stop it! Mum slammed her hands on the conference table. This isn't a game. No, I agreed. It's karma. Herbert Jr. cleared his throat. Mrs. Barnes, please sit down. There's something else you need to see. He slid a USB drive across the table. This was in my father's personal files. He passed away last year, but he left this with instructions to release it if certain circumstances arose. Mom's face went ash grey. Herbert Sr. recorded everything, he said firmly. Insurance, he called it, including your conversations about framing Caden. Play it, Jasmine demanded. The recording was crystal clear despite its age. Mom's younger voice filled the room. We need something convincing, Herbert. Something that will make Pearl cut him off completely. I can't split this inheritance 3 ways. I won't. Herbert Sr.'s voice responded. Domestic violence allegations would do it. No one questions a mother protecting her children. Rachel's already agreed to take one of the twins. Turn it off, Mum whispered, but no one moved. Her younger voice continued. Pearl's getting suspicious. She keeps asking about Caden's behaviour, watching us at family events. We need to move fast. The stock options vest next month, Herbert Sr. replied. Once you're CEO, I reached over and stopped the playback. The silence that followed was deafening. You didn't just separate us, I said quietly. You planned it, calculated it, timed it perfectly to get control of the company. I did what I had to do, Mum's voice cracked. We were drowning in debt. Your father's teaching salary barely covered our mortgage. Pearl was threatening to cut me off if I didn't settle down and be a proper wife. So you destroyed Dad's life, Jasmine cut in. Sent me away. Lied to everyone for 28 years. Herbert Jr. pulled out more documents. The board is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. Given these revelations, they'll have no choice but to remove you as CEO. You can't do this to me, Mum pleaded, looking at me. Tori, baby, please. Everything I did was to give you a better life. Stop, I stood up. Just stop lying. For once in your life, just tell the truth. She seemed to deflate, aging years in seconds. What do you want from me? A confession, Jasmine said. Public, complete. Take responsibility for everything. And then? Then we don't release the rest of Herbert Sr.'s recordings, I said. The ones about the other families you and he manipulated over the years. Mom's eyes widened. There are more? So many more, Herbert Jr. confirmed grimly. My father was very thorough with his insurance policy. You have 24 hours, Jasmine stated, standing up. Either you come clean about everything or we release it all. Every scheme, every lie, every person you've hurt. The company will be ruined, Mom whispered. The company will survive, I corrected her. Under new leadership, honest leadership. We turned to leave, but Mom called out one last time. Will you ever forgive me? I looked at my sister, at the years we'd lost, at the pain in her eyes that matched my own. Maybe someday, I said, but first you have to earn it. Walking out of that office, arm in arm with my sister, I felt lighter somehow. The truth was messy and painful, but it was finally free. Now we just had to wait and see if Mom would choose truth or consequences. Think she'll do it? Jasmine asked as we stepped into the elevator. Doesn't matter, I replied. Either way, it ends tomorrow. The doors closed on our mother's broken expression, and I didn't look back. The next day, we gathered in Grandma Pearl's old study at the family estate. Miles had discovered something hidden in her personal safe, a video diary she'd recorded in her final months. Mom sat in the corner looking small and defeated, while Herbert Jr. set up the projection screen. Pearl recorded this 3 days before she passed, Miles explained, pressing play. Grandma Pearl's face filled the screen, her familiar stern expression softened by exhaustion. If you're watching this, then the truth has finally come out. Valeria, my daughter, I hope you're here too. You need to see what your actions cost us all. Mom flinched as Pearl continued. I've spent years collecting evidence of what really happened. Not just with the twins, but everything. The corporate takeover, the falsified documents, the other families Herbert helped you deceive. The video cut to security footage from 28 years ago, Mom and Herbert Sr. in his office, planning their scheme. Then photos of Dad with baby Jasmine and me. Happy family moments that contradicted every abuse allegation. Financial records showing the complex web of payments and bribes. I was dying, Pearl's voice continued over the evidence. And instead of bringing our family together, you saw an opportunity to grab more power, more money. You didn't just separate the twins, Valeria. You separated all of us from the truth. Tears were streaming down Mom's face now. On screen, Pearl held up a familiar red leather folder. This contains everything, every lie, every scheme, every person you've hurt. I'm leaving copies with trusted friends. If you're seeing this video, it means you've chosen pride over truth once again. Turn it off, Mom whispered. But Pearl wasn't finished. But there's something else you need to know, Pearl continued. Something even Herbert didn't know about. The real reason I insisted he handle my will through his son instead of directly. Everyone leaned forward as Pearl pulled out another document. Remember Thomas? Pearl asked. Herbert's younger brother who disappeared 30 years ago. He didn't run away to Europe like you told everyone. He was going to expose your first scheme together, the insider trading that started it all. The police might be interested to know what really happened to him. Mum stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. She's lying. Am I? Pearl's voice was steel. Check the folder, Valeria. Check the dates. Check the cabin receipts. Check Thomas's last phone records. Herbert Jr. had gone completely still. My Uncle Thomas. Dad said he died in a hiking accident in Switzerland. There was no hiking accident, Miles said quietly, pulling out more documents. These are police reports Pearl collected. Thomas was last seen driving toward your family's cabin in Vermont. The cabin that burned down mysteriously a week later. No, Mom breathed. You can't prove anything. Actually, Pearl continued from the screen, I can, because Thomas left something with me before he disappeared. Something I've kept safe all these years, waiting for the right moment. She held up a microcassette tape. His final conversation with Herbert recorded in secret. I've had it digitized and secured. If you're seeing this video, Valeria, copies are already on their way to the district attorney's office. The room erupted into chaos. Herbert Jr. was on his phone, presumably calling his lawyer. Mom had collapsed back into her chair, all colour drained from her face. Jasmine was gripping my hand so tight it hurt. One last thing, Pearl said, her image growing grainy as the video neared its end. Tori, Jasmine, I'm so sorry I couldn't stop this sooner. I tried to protect you both, but I failed. The truth is, your inheritance now. Use it wisely. Use it to heal what your mother broke. The screen went black, leaving us in stunned silence. Is it true? Herbert Jr. asked, his voice shaking. Did you and my father, did you kill my uncle? Mom's silence was answer enough. The police will be here soon, Miles said, checking his phone. Pearl's executor sent everything to them this morning. You had 24 hours to come clean, I reminded Mom, to take responsibility for what you did. Instead, you tried to call your old contacts to bury the story, Jasmine finished. Miles intercepted those calls, by the way. Pearl thought you might try something like that. We heard sirens in the distance, growing closer. Tori, please, Mom begged. Don't let them take me. I'm your mother. No, I cut her off. A mother protects her children. A mother chooses love over money. You chose power over everything else, and now you have to live with that choice. The police cars pulled up outside, red and blue lights flashing through the study windows. Mom stood up, straightening her jacket one last time. I really did love you, she said softly. Both of you. I know, I replied as the officers entered. That's what makes it all so much worse. The media circus that followed Mom's arrest was exactly what you'd expect when a prominent CEO gets charged with fraud, conspiracy, and accessory to murder. Reporters camped outside my apartment building, hoping to catch the separated twins for an exclusive interview. This is insane, Jasmine said, peeking through my blinds at the news vans below. Did you see the headline this morning? Twisted Sister, How One Woman's Greed Tore Apart Boston's Elite Family. At least they used a decent photo of us, I replied, trying to lighten the mood. Dad arrived with coffee and bagels, navigating through the media frenzy with practiced ease. The board meeting's in an hour. You girls ready? We'd spent the past week preparing for this moment. As Pearl's primary heirs, we now controlled the majority of shares in the family company. Today, we'd face the board of directors for the first time. Remember, Jordan said, helping me adjust my blazer, you're not just the scandal twins anymore. You're the future of this company. The company headquarters felt different now. Employees whispered as we passed, some offering sympathetic smiles, others quickly looking away. Mom's corner office stood empty, crime scene tape still sealing the door. In the boardroom, 12 stern faces greeted us. I recognized most of them from charity galas and holiday parties, people who'd watched us grow up never knowing the truth. Ladies, Margaret, the board chair, began, we're facing unprecedented challenges. The company's stock has dropped 30%. Partners are pulling out. The press is relentless. We know, Jasmine said firmly. And we have a plan. I opened my laptop and pulled up our presentation. First, complete transparency. We're hiring an independent auditor to review every transaction from the past 30 years. That could expose more irregularities, one director warned. Good, I replied. Better we find them first. Clean house completely. Jasmine took over. Second, we're establishing a victims' compensation fund. Anyone hurt by Mom's schemes, or Herbert Sr.'s, will be made whole. That could cost millions, another director protested. It's the right thing to do, Dad spoke up from behind us. And it's what Pearl would have wanted. I clicked to the next slide. Finally, we're restructuring the company. New leadership, new direction, new ethical guidelines. And who exactly will lead this new direction? Margaret asked, though her slight smile suggested she already knew. Jasmine and I exchanged glances. We will. Together. I have an MBA from Harvard, I said. And I have 5 years' experience running successful tech startups, Jasmine added. Plus, we have something no one else does. What's that? A very personal stake in making things right, I answered. The board deliberated for hours. Meanwhile, news broke that Mom had agreed to a plea deal, promising to testify against Herbert Sr.'s estate in exchange for a reduced sentence. The headlines were brutal. Disgraced CEO trades final secrets for mercy. Finally, Margaret called us back in. The board has decided, she announced. We're approving your proposal, with one condition. We want your father to serve as chairman. His experience in ethics education will be valuable, and frankly, the public trusts him. Dad looked stunned. I'm just a professor. You're the only adult in this story who never chose money over family, Margaret said. That means something. As we left the building that evening, reporters swarmed us again. Ms. Barnes, how does it feel to take over the company your mother nearly destroyed? Jasmine grabbed my hand and we faced the cameras together. Our grandmother Pearl believed in this company's potential to do good, I said clearly. We're going to honor that belief. And what about your mother? Will you visit her in prison? No comment, Jasmine replied firmly, but I stepped forward. Our mother made her choices, I said. Now we're making ours. This company will be transparent, ethical, and focused on healing the damage that greed and secrecy caused. That's all we have to say. Back at my apartment, Dad ordered pizza while Jordan opened champagne. To the new CEOs, she toasted, may you be less evil than the last one. Too soon, Dad groaned, but we all laughed. My phone buzzed. A text from Herbert Jr. Police found more evidence at the cabin site. They're reopening Thomas's case. Thank you for helping uncover the truth. I showed it to Jasmine, who nodded grimly. One more secret brought to light. You know, Dad said, looking at us proudly, Pearl would have loved seeing you two together like this, running the company, fixing what's broken. Making things right, I added. Together, Jasmine finished. Outside, the reporters were finally packing up, the day's scandal becoming yesterday's news. But inside, surrounded by my real family, I knew the real story was just beginning. Mom's web of lies had unraveled completely, and from those broken threads we were weaving something new, something stronger, something true. The morning of Mom's sentencing, snow fell softly outside the courthouse. Jasmine and I sat in the front row, watching as the judge reviewed the final plea agreement. Your Honour, Mom's lawyer said, my client has cooperated fully. Her testimony was instrumental in solving the Thomas case, and she's agreed to assist in investigating other potential victims of Herbert Sr.'s schemes. Mom sat perfectly straight, wearing a plain navy suit instead of her usual designer clothes. She looked older, smaller somehow, but her eyes kept drifting to where Jasmine and I sat. The judge cleared her throat. Mrs. Barnes, before I pronounce sentence, do you wish to address the court? Mom stood slowly. Yes, Your Honour. She turned to face us, her hands trembling. I've had a lot of time to think in custody. About choices, about consequences, about what really matters. She took a shaky breath. I told myself I was protecting my family, building a legacy, but I wasn't protecting anyone. I was just protecting my own greed. My daughters. Her voice cracked. My beautiful girls. I robbed you of each other. I robbed you of your father. I robbed you of the truth. Jasmine gripped my hand as Mom continued. I can't undo what I did. But I can say what I should have said 28 years ago. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply, profoundly sorry. The judge nodded. Taking into account your cooperation and plea agreement, I sentence you to 8 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. As the bailiff led Mom away, she paused beside us. The company announcement goes out today? Yes, I said. The Victims' Compensation Program launches this afternoon. Good, she whispered. Make it right. Make it better than I did. Outside the courthouse, Dad waited with coffee and tissues. You okay? Getting there, Jasmine said, wiping her eyes. My phone buzzed, a message from Margaret. Press conference ready when you are. An hour later, we stood at the podium in the company's main lobby, facing a sea of reporters. Today, I began, we're announcing the establishment of the Pearl Foundation for Family Reconciliation. Using funds recovered from fraudulent transactions, We'll help reunite families separated by deception and provide counselling services to heal the wounds that lies create. Jasmine stepped forward. We're also partnering with law enforcement to review cold cases involving financial fraud and family separation. No more secrets. No more lies. And what about your mother? A reporter called out. Will she have any role in the company after her release? Our mother's actions caused tremendous pain, I replied, but they also taught us an invaluable lesson about the cost of choosing power over love. We're choosing a different path. Back in my office, Mom's old office, now shared with Jasmine, we found a package from Herbert Jr. What's this? Jasmine asked as I opened it. Inside was an old photo album and a note. Found this in my father's storage unit. Thought you should have it. H. The album contained photos of Mom and Herbert Sr. in college, young and ambitious. Notes in the margins detailed their early schemes, their plans, their dreams of power. Look at this, I said, pointing to a photo of Mom holding baby Jasmine. On the back was written, Plan B ready. V says separation necessary for maximum impact. She really planned it all, Jasmine whispered, from the very beginning. But she didn't plan on us finding each other, I replied, closing the album, or on Grandma Pearl's final act of justice. Dad knocked on the door. Ready for the board meeting? We gathered our papers, but Jasmine paused at Mom's old desk. Should we keep this here, the album? I thought about it, then placed it in the bottom drawer. Yes, to remind us what happens when you choose the wrong kind of legacy. The board meeting went smoothly. Our stock was recovering, partners were returning, and the compensation program was already receiving applications. One more thing, Margaret announced. Pearl's old estate. The board agrees it should become the foundation's headquarters. Perfect, Jasmine and I said together, making everyone laugh. That evening we gathered at the estate. Dad, Jordan, Miles, even Herbert Jr. As we raised our glasses, I looked around at this unlikely family we'd built from the ashes of Mom's deception. To Pearl, Dad toasted, who never stopped believing in the truth. To second chances, Herbert Jr. added, thinking of his uncle's solved case. To sisters, Jasmine said, bumping my shoulder. To choosing love, I finished. Outside, snow continued falling, covering the city in clean white. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new stories of families torn apart by lies. But tonight, in this room full of truth and healing, I finally felt complete. The legacy Mom built had crumbled, but from its ruins, we'd created something far more valuable, a foundation of honesty, a future of reconciliation, and an unbreakable bond between sisters who refused to let lies win.